So we are going to check at IGCSE Year 11 differentiation, but this is the first part because first part is just basically basic differentiation, perhaps the first and second derivative. Yeah, that is basically what differentiation part 1 means according to my summary, but then I'll also prepare part 2 soon. So IGCSE differentiation, so we just need to know the rules for differentiation, what we do to the power and how we bring it to the coefficient. That is the only thing we need to know. So for example, I have some few example. Find the gradient function of 2x cubed. So 2x cubed. So the gradient function here of 2x cubed means that we just have to differentiate 2x cubed. So we have 2x cubed. For differentiation, the few things that we're going to do, we're going to bring these 3 here. So it's going to be 2 times 3, which is 6. And then this power, we're going to subtract 1 from it. So it's going to be subtracted 1. So it's going to be x to the power of 2. Simple as that. So the rule is the same. We just have to move the coefficient. We have to move the power and multiply it with the coefficient of x. And then the same power, we reduce it by 1. That's the rule for the basic rule for differentiation. So calculate the gradient of the curve when x is negative 2. Now we've already calculated the gradient function. So what we just need to do is from the gradient function, we replace x with the negative 2. That's what we need to do. So where there is x, we are just going to put negative 2. So we had 6x squared. So the main equation is 6x squared. So where there is x, we put negative 2. So just some reminder here, it's 6 and then we have negative 2 squared. Well, I'll just do it here. Negative 2 times negative 2. That is what we mean by negative 2 squared. That is negative 2 times negative 2, which is positive 4. So a square of any negative number is always positive. So it's going to give us 6 multiplied by 4, which is going to give us 24. So we're going to get 24. Now, let's check again for our different set. That is how we differentiate it. So the second derivative, for the second derivative, what they mean, the second question asks us to find the second derivative. So what they mean is for us to differentiate this equation twice. We do the first differentiation. Let's start with the first differentiation. So the first differentiation is just called dy over dx. That is the first derivative. Now, if we differentiate 2, this one will come here. It's going to be 2 times 5, which is 10x. Then the 5, we subtract 1, which is going to be 4, x power 4, minus. Again, 2 comes here. We're going to have 3 times 2, which is 6x. And then the x, the powered x, we just reduce it by 1 to become 2 minus 1. Subtract here 1, so it becomes 1. When you differentiate a number that does not have a constant, that does not have a variable, that is a number that does not have a variable, that is, it's missing the x in it. So we call that number a constant. So when you differentiate a constant, you get a 0. So this is like plus 0. So our answer becomes, that is the first derivative, 10x power 4 minus 6x. X power 1 is just x. So this is what we call the first derivative. Now, let's check out the second derivative. For the second derivative, what I mean with second derivative is d squared y over dx squared. So x, we are doing the second differentiation. So we are differentiating the same, which was 10x, which was 10x power 4 minus 6x. So still we are doing the same differentiation. This 4 comes here. So we are going to have 4 times 10, which is 40x. And then here we subtract 1. So that is 40x. 4 minus 1 is 3. And then minus. Now 6x. This is x power 1. So 1 minus 1, it's like 1 minus 1, which is 0. So it's going to be 6x power 0. Well, any number raised to the power of 0 is always 1. Like you can even check if we have 5 raised to the power of 0, gives us 1. So any number raised to the by the power of 0 is always 1. So in this case, so 6 to the power of x to the power of 0 is 1. So this is going to give us 40x cubed minus 6. This is the second derivative of 2x power 5 minus 3x squared plus 2. As simple as that. Well, into the next question, still under differentiation. The population P of a colony of rabbits over a period of T weeks, and in this case T is less than 24, is given by the formula P is equals to T squared plus 3T plus a quarter. That one was a quarter, by the way, plus a quarter T cubed plus 50. So calculate the rabbit population when T is 0. So when T is 0, we are just going to replace everywhere with 0. So where there is T, we put 0. So this is 6 into 0 squared plus 3 multiplied by 0 minus a quarter multiplied by 0 cubed plus 50. Well, you don't need to do some of this calculation. This is 6 times 0. 0 squared is 0. 0 is 0. So this one is going to give us 0 plus 0. A quarter times 0 is still plus 0 and then plus 50. So technically this one gives us 50 rabbits. 50 rabbits. But then when T is 20, this one becomes different. You might need even your calculator here if need be, because we are going to do where there is T, we put 20. So we had 6T squared. So we are going to do 6 into 20 squared plus 3 into 20 minus a quarter into 20 cubed plus 50. So we solve them one by one. 20 squared is 400. 20 squared simply means 20 times 20. That's what 20 squared means. You can also press it on your calculator just by putting 20 squared, which is 400. So this 400, we are multiplying it by 6, which is giving us 2,400. Gives us 2,400 plus 3 times 20 is 60 minus. Now a quarter, 20 cubed times a quarter. Well, some of these cube you need to know them. 20 cubed, that is 20 cubed, and then that is what we are multiplying by a quarter, 1 over 4, going to get 2,000. And then plus 50. So we can add all this together, 2,400 plus 2,000 minus 2,000. That way, you can add them all together with or without the use of your calculator. So we have 2,400 plus 60 minus 2,000 plus 50, 510. So we're going to get 510 rabbits. Good. So we now go to the next part. So calculate the rate of population growth, that is dP over dt. So we just have to remember the main equation. It was 6t. The main equation that we were using was 6t squared plus 3t minus a quarter t cubed plus 50. So dp over dt means we differentiate this one with respect to t. So we are differentiating t, not p, because p is the subject. So where there is t, we differentiate it. So this is going to be, 6 times 2, the rule for differentiating. 6 times 2 is 12t. And then 2 minus 1 becomes 1. Plus, again, this is t power 1. So we're going just to say 1 times 3, which is 3t power 0, once you subtract it. And then minus, 3 times a quarter is 3/4. You can check that one even with your calculator or your basic knowledge of this. 3/4 t. And then, we have to subtract something here. So this is t squared. And then when you differentiate a constant, you just get a 0. So our answer is going to become 12 t power 1 remains as t minus, plus 3, because t power 0, any number raised to the power of 0, by the way, is 1. Any number raised to the power of 0, even if you speak of such a big number, as long as you are raising it to the power of 0, you're going to get 1. So even t raised to the power of 0 is 1. So 1 times 3 is 3, and then minus 3/4 t squared. Here's why. So this becomes our answer. The next example, now that we've calculated the rate, that is, we've differentiated the equation. Now we can calculate the rate of population growth when t is 5. So everywhere there is t, we put 5. So this is 12t minus 3. Okay, actually it's plus 3 minus 3/4 t squared. So where there is t, we make sure we put 5, because this is our value. So 12 times 5 plus 3 minus 3/4. And then, this is t squared. When I say t squared, I mean 5 to the power of 2. So what we do here, 12 times 5 is 60 plus 3, that is 63, minus. Now, 5 squared times 3/4. Of course, your calculator can help you here. So we can say one can do 3/4 and then times 5 squared. That's one way of doing it, which is 75 over 4, 18.75. Or you can just do 5 squared, which is 25. Then you multiply it by 3 over 4. That one gives you the, and then you check it into decimal, 18.75. Now, if you solve this one, 60 plus 3 minus 18.75, it's not a must for you to use your calculator. I'm just using it because most of you students are used to this, but no one will penalize you for using it. So we have 60 plus 3 minus 18.75. So if you do the subtraction, you get 177 over 4, which is 44.25. So your answer becomes 44.25. This is the rate of growth, so we don't have that it's 44.25 rabbits, it's just 44.25. Well, having said so, that is a better introduction to differentiation. We'll be making a different one, a tougher one, that is the tougher differentiation. We don't really call it tougher, but we call it the second part of this differentiation. See you and enjoy mathematics.